Hey guys, please like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and comment below. Really helps the channel out. Hey everybody, welcome back to World of Tanks, and an informational video for you today. Some time ago, maybe 2 years ago, I did a top 10 money-making non-premium tanks video, and people really seem to enjoy that. So I've decided to do an update here from the new 1.2. So that, obviously the list will have changed a little bit. And we're just going to dive right into it. Number 10 is the Polish 25TP. This is the Tier 5 Polish medium tank, okay, which I do not have, but I've fully equipped it here in the preview. And a quick review. Firepower, you've got a very good gun for a Tier 5. It's a high velocity 75mm with 135 pen and 135 average damage. Reload time is 479. Now that's with a 100% crew, without rammer, without vents, without BIA, and he gets negative 10 degrees gun depression. Good aim time at 2.4. Dispersion 0.36, which is pretty decent. So overall, it's a pretty decent firepower medium tank. Good for taking out light tanks, good for knife fighting with other mediums or even slow heavies. Your downside is going to be that 10 degrees of gun elevation. Survivability, well, hull is almost non-existent in terms of armor unless you hit it like right on this plate, because obviously that's very steep and it'll auto bounce most guns. But overall, if you hit it anywhere on the front, on the flat spots, those mini turrets, or the side or rear, you're good to go. Hull or frontal turret armor is 80mm, and you can see this is a really goofy looking turret. That 80mm is going to be somewhat hard to pen because of the shape of the turret, which with 10 degrees gun depression lets this tank work ridge lines. Mobility, well, this tank shines pretty well there. Top speed of 56 with a specific power of 18.92, which is very good for a Tier 5 medium tank. Concealment, what do you want to say? It's a medium tank. And then spotting is okay. It's kind of mediocre. 350 view range, and even with the upgraded radio, you've got 430 signal range. So this tank is not a good spotter. It's not a good scout. And the number you're waiting for, it averages a net of 2,546 credits profit per game. So number 9 is the Japanese Tier 7 heavy tank, a tank that I really enjoyed when I had. You see I've got a mark on it even though I don't have the tank in my garage right now. You get two choices of guns with this thing. You get a 15cm howitzer, which it's a very typical 15cm derp gun. It hits really hard but has an abysmally slow reload time, 22 seconds, with a 100% crew without rammer vents. You can get it down with BIA rammer vents to closer to 18 seconds. Aim time is an abysmal 3.36 and an abysmal 0.54 on the dispersion. Or you can go with the 10cm experimental anti-tank gun, which gets you 190 average pen on the standard rounds, 215 on premium, which kind of sucks, and then a very lackluster 53 AG, 330 average damage with the AP rounds, which is better than the 105 on the T29, for example. Your aim time gets a little better at 316, and the dispersion gets a little better at a very, very lackluster 0.42, which puts it up there with the T29, maybe even slightly worse. And we all know how frustrating T29's gun can be. But let's be blunt. You don't get the... real quick. 10 degrees of gun depression, which is all around the tank, which is very good, except these mini turrets right on the front. Over this one, you're only going to get about 4 degrees, and over this one, you're going to get about 6. In the middle, you'll get 10, and off to the sides, you'll get 10. So you have to be very careful that when you're going at an enemy tank that may be lower profile than you are on lower ground, that you are going right at him so your gun will fit in this slot. Otherwise, you got to angle and shoot over the side, which angling's not bad. I'll get to this in a second. And well, actually, here we go. Let's be blunt. The reason you play this tank is survivability. 200mm frontal turret armor, and that's very realistic. Your only chance of penning the front turret of this thing is to the left and right of the gun. At 200mm, you better have something with some very, very good penetration, because these spots right here are 200 as well, but they slant backwards. Side turret is 150, rear turret is 150. That's a much more penetrable shot unless you're in a tier 6 or 5. Front hull is 175 and 150 on the rear. So the rear is not substantially more penetrable than the front of the tank. The side, on the other hand, is a very easy 70. But if you can angle your tank like this, well, the side becomes an auto bounce for most things, and the front becomes extremely difficult to penetrate. Mobility, it's a slow Japanese heavy tank. 11.89 specific power with a top speed of 25. You'll get to 25 on paved ground, but that's if you're going in a straight line for a minute. That's about it. Concealment, 1. Enough said there. And then spotting is very mediocre. It is a heavy tank, 380 view range with a 574 signal range. So this is a front line, soak up the damage and dish it out type of heavy tank, and it averages 2,720 credits per game profit. And my recommendation is that to achieve that, you need to use the derp gun, not the 10 centimeter, and don't fire any premium rounds at all. And number 8 is everybody's favorite cute little killer, the Panzer II Luchs. This is a tank that has been the subject of many YouTube videos. It's a Tier 4 German light tank, and with this tank, look, it's fast, it's quick, 26.71 specific power, 60 top speed, no armor to speak of, some degree of concealment and spotting, but it's a Tier 4. Really what makes this tank what it is the gun, and you've got two different gun options. You've got a Tier 4 5 centimeter L60 gun. The 5 centimeter has a very good rate of fire, and it gets an average damage per shot of 70 for a DPM of 1752. Now this is actually a very good gun to use, even though the penetration is kind of weak at 67. You have to really pick your targets. But the gun most people like is the 3 centimeter flak. The 3 centimeter flak gets superior penetration in 95 and does 30 damage per shot. The DPM is much lower at 971 because you have a brutal reload time once you expend that clip. But the key to this guy is he's so quick and fast, you can slide right in behind Tier 4, Tier 5, sometimes even Tier 6 heavy tanks, unload that clip into their back and side, and be away before they even know what's going on. I've seen many carries on YouTube with this machine using this gun. It's a lot of fun to play if you know what you're doing with it, and it averages 2,948 credits profit per game. And number 7 on the list was a surprise to me, and this is the next tank from the Luchs. This is the Tier 5 German VK1601 Leopard. It really surprised me that this tank makes more credits than the Luchs, or even shows up on this list. This is basically the Luchs Part 2. Okay, plain and simple. It is almost an identical machine. Armor is basically the same. Mobility is basically the same. 25 kp or 25 specific power with a top speed of 60. Spotting is better only because it gets a better radio. You've got a substantially better signal range. So this is a little more of a conventional spotting light tank. You get the choice of two guns. You get the same 3 centimeter flak from the Leopard. It's the DPM is a little bit better because you get less reload time on that clip, so it's an 1177 DPM, which is actually over 20% better than the Luchs. However, that penetration of 95 is what you get on the 3 centimeter on this tank. It's going to be very lackluster in a Tier 5 game. I mean, even against the front of M4 Shermans, if they're angled, you're going to find you bounce some shots. Your other option is the 5 centimeter, which has a substantially higher DPM at 1905 and a little better penetration at 100 with an average damage of 70. This tank averages 3,077 credits per game. Number 6 is the ever-glorious KV-2 Tier 6 Soviet heavy tank. This is a tank that I have bought and sold on several occasions and finally decided just to keep long term here a short time ago. The KV-2 is I don't know what to tell you. You all know what a KV-2 is. It's slow, not as slow as an OI, but it's slow. Comes with a couple different gun options. Obviously, the one everyone likes to play with is a 152mm derp, which is a 2.5 rate of fire, which means 24 seconds between shells on a 100% crew, 700 average damage, and you can running AP or you can run HE, and that's really what you want to fire is the HE shell with a 910 average damage and 86 penetration. Don't waste your time with AP. You spam HE with this and you watch tanks blow up. You can one-shot so many tanks at tier 6 and lower and do serious damage to tier 7s and 8s. The KV-2 is one of the few heavy tanks at tier 6 that tier 8 tanks do not like to fight because it can do a lot of damage. Mine has rammer and vents, which gets my reload time down to 20.25. Obviously, BIA would be a nice addition to that. Survivability, armor's kind of lackluster. It's basically got KV-1 armor, which is 75 frontal hull and turret. However, that 75 frontal turret only talks about around the gun mantlet. Most shots will hit the gun mantlet on this tank, which will have no effect whatsoever. You know, I don't know what else to say about the KV-2. You can watch plenty of videos on my channel of the KV-2. This tank has a substantial jump in credits earned versus the Leo. It earns 4,753 credits on average per game. And number 5 on the list is an artillery, the Tier 6 German Hummel. Probably pronounced Hummel or something along those lines. The Hummel's a 15 centimeter self-propelled gun. Pretty straightforward. In terms of firepower, you with a 100% crew, you get 680 average damage per shot, which is a little low for a 15 centimeter. It's only got 39 millimeters of penetration, has almost no gun depression, but it is an artillery. Rate of fire is 2.01, which is basically 30 seconds between shells. Okay, 29.82 is what it says there. Of course, you can drop that with a rammer. You can't load vents because it's open topped. And you will want to add a rammer to it. The big thing here is that the minimum stun duration on this is 10.4 seconds. Which is overall very long for a tier 6 with a maximum stun duration of 16 seconds. Beyond that, not a whole lot to talk about. It's reasonably mobile for an SPG with a 42 kph, but the 13 specific power is going to limit that a little bit. And, in terms of dispersion, 0.65 dispersion at 100 meters. I mean, it's firing big old clunky HE shells. However, the aiming time at 5.94 is actually pretty good for Tier 6 artillery. This guy earns 6,612 credits per game on average. Number 4, the Japanese Tier 6 heavy tank, the OI. Actually, it's pronounced the OE, but we all tend to call it the OI. The OE is Japan's answer to the KV-2, plain and simple. You got a couple different gun options. You got a 10 centimeter, which isn't bad. It's 175 penetration on standard rounds with 300 average damage and a rate of fire 5, which is 12 seconds between rounds. So obviously you can get that below 10 fully equipped. But really the gun everybody wants to play is the 15 centimeter howitzer. I mean, that's just it, you know. And you got 3 different options of ammunition. You got AP for 121 pen. You got heat for 150. If you're going to do that, just use a 10 centimeter gun. No, load this baby up with HE, 75 millimeters of average penetration with a 2.31 rate of fire. Now, I have this in my garage, and I've got vents, rammer, I've got a gun laying drive, and I've got a BIA cruise. So here you're getting to see this tank about as maxed out as you can get it. And I've got the rate of fire up to 2.8, which means the reload time is 21.46, which means a KV-2 will out-reload you. The dispersion's down to 0.53 with a 3.09 second aim time. That's not bad for a giant derp gun at tier 6. 10 degrees of gun depression, which is mostly accurate. The mini turrets in the front impact that a little bit, but not enough that you'll really notice. Very slow. Mobility is, top speed's 29. Specific power 7.96. It really struggles to get up to speed. Here's what you've got that the KV-2 doesn't have. You have 150 millimeters frontal hull armor, okay? Also frontal and side turret armor. Your rear hull is 105 and your rear turret is 105. Tier 4 light tanks jumping in behind you will not be able to pen your rear like they can against other tier 6 heavies like M6s, 3601H, Sushi Tigers, you name it. Also, the turret is 150, but you can see it angles backwards, so it's effective if you're going right at your enemies higher than 150. Only real weak spot is this hatch right up on the top. If you can make, now here's what's interesting, if you can make a point of angling your tank like this, but then turn the turret to face directly at the enemy so that that's still angled, because right here it's flat, your armor becomes immensely more useful. This is a tough tank. It's also a slow tank, but with the derp, it's fantastic. And this tank averages a whopping 7,035 credits per game on average. Number 6 is another SPG, the American M44 Tier 6 self-propelled gun. This is a machine that I have loved forever. And when they came out with the stun effect, I loved it even more. Everyone back in the day used to love their FV304s, and I always thought the M44 was as good or even a better machine. And I'll show you why. This gun, you've got a Tier 6, what is it? A 155 howitzer, Tier 6 gun. Penetration is very low overall at 39, and an average damage of 550 per shot, which is a little low. However, and your stun duration's kind of low compared to the Hummel we just looked at, 6.76 minimum to 10.4. However, your rate of fire is 3.65. Okay, I'm running Cola, and I've got a rammer, and I've got a gun laying drive, and a camo net, and I'm on the cusp of getting BIA, but just with Cola and a rammer, you can't load vents because it's open top. This thing fires every 16.43 seconds. This is one of those machines that you can be 2 tiers down and still feel very comfortable that you can make a difference, because you can perma-stun enemy heavy tanks over and over and over. They will just get the stun off when you hit them again. Quite often. It can really slow down the advance. I had one particular game where I was on Melanovka, and I was firing up at the hill because they had 6 heavy tanks up on the hill, all at close proximity, and I was stunning 2 and 3 all the time with every shot, and ended up with 357 seconds of stuns or something insane like that. It fires only HE ammunition, that's all you get. And here's the other thing, mobility. This sucker's quick. 56 kph top speed with an 18.63 specific power. So this gets up to a top speed a whole lot easier than, say, the Hummel does. It's very mobile. It really lets you escape danger. If you're watching your map and you see something headed your way, you can pull out pretty quickly and relocate very, very quickly. The M44 averages 7,265 credits per game. And yes, number 2 is another self-propelled gun, the Tier 6 AMX-13 F3. And let's talk about this for a minute. Why are there so many SPGs on this list? Well, it's because it's simple. At Tier 6, an SPG costs very little to repair, and it's relatively cheap to reload because you're firing low-tier HE. Okay, so you're talking about a tank that can get big damage numbers, plus the stun effects, which help your total, of course, but it's relatively cheap to repair and reload. So that's why these guys, you see so many SPGs on this list. The Tier 6 French SPG is very similar to the M44. It fires a 155 millimeter gun, okay, which is just like the M44. However, it has about the same penetration, but it gets a lot more average damage at 700. It pays for that in reload time, 1.96 rate of fire for a reload time of 30.59. You can't get the reload time below 25 seconds versus my M44, which is at 16 and change and wasn't even maxed out yet. So stun duration's fantastic, 12 to 22 seconds. So this SPG fires less often, but it hits really hard. Dispersion kind of stinks at 0.67, but it's got a good aim time. So just aim your shot and make it count. Like the M44, it's fairly mobile. Top speed of 60 kph. It can get out of danger pretty quickly, and with a specific power of 16.99, it can get up to that speed relatively easily so that it can escape danger and move around the battlefield. The AMX-13 averages 8,364 credits per game. And the one you've all been waiting for, number one, highest credit earning per game non-premium tank in World of Tanks is none other than the Tier 5 German Panzer IV-H. I don't have this tank in my garage right now, but I fully intend to rebuy it because, frankly, I just think it's a beautiful looking machine. I've seen one of these in person at the American Armored Foundation Tank Museum in Danville, Virginia. It's just a good looking German tank. I mean, when you think of Panzer, this is one of the tanks that absolutely has to come to mind. It's kind of surprising to me that it's number one on this list, but I think we have an answer for that. First thing is you get two choice of guns. You get a 7.5 centimeter KWK-40 L48, which is overall a good gun. 110 average damage, 110 penetration, 0.39 dispersion, 2.3 aim time, 15 rate of fire, which is every 4 seconds, which of course is faster with rammer and vents and BIA. So you can get a lot of DPM out of that 3-inch gun if that's what you want to do. But if I were to do it, and this is what I did do when I played it, I brought the 10.5 centimeter derp gun, the L28, which is a crappy dispersion at 0.55. Aim time is actually really good at 2.3 seconds, and of course you get an average damage on this sucker of 350 on AP, but you get 410 on HE. So that's probably why this guy is number one. You just take this derp gun, load HE in it, and just spam derp shells at people every chance you get. Running this gun, you get to fire, every 7.67 seconds. So you can get that down close to 6 with rammer, with vents, with BIA, and if you run chocolate. It's just a lot of fun to play. Survivability is meh. I mean, 50 turret armor. I mean, yeah, the turret's easily penetrable. It's got this big thing on top. Hull armor of 80. This plate is a little hard to pen, but this flat spot isn't. The front flat spot or lower plate isn't. It's a medium tank. And it's a little sluggish. I mean, 40 kph top speed, 17 specific power. It moves around quickly at low speeds, but it just doesn't get up to a blazing top speed that you might want out of a medium tank. But it's a lot of fun to play with that derp gun, and he averages 8,554 credits per game. I'd like to thank you again for watching, everybody. A quick commentary. There's only one Tier 7 tank on this whole list, and that's because you play it with a derp gun. Everything else is Tier 6 with 2 Tier 5s and a Tier 4. And, of course, the reason for that is that's where you can make the most money. When you get into higher tiers, the shells cost more, the repair costs more, etc., etc. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Like and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for future videos, and we will see you on the battlefield.